Most people go through life completely unaware that some of the most important evaluations they will ever face are not happening in job interviews or performance reviews or formal assessments. They are happening in ordinary conversations, over a casual lunch, during a seemingly throwaway text exchange, in the middle of what felt like a relaxed social gathering. Someone in your life right now is testing you, not because they are malicious, not because they do not trust you, but because the human brain is hardwired to verify before it fully invests, to probe before it fully commits, to test the integrity of a bridge before it decides to walk across it. And the most sophisticated evaluators, the ones whose judgment actually matters, are almost never obvious about it. They do not announce the test. They do not give you a heads up. They design the evaluation to look like something else entirely, and then they watch what you do when you think no one important is paying attention. The terrifying and fascinating truth is that the way you behave in these unannounced moments determines more about how people see you, trust you, and value you than almost anything you deliberately perform when you know you are being watched. Today we are going into the psychology behind 7 specific signs that someone is secretly testing you, what they are actually measuring, why the human brain runs these tests automatically, and what your responses are telling the people around you about who you really are underneath the version of yourself you consciously present to the world. Before we get into the 7 signs, you need to understand the psychological framework that makes all of this make sense. Social psychologist Zick Rubin at Harvard, whose research on interpersonal relationships transformed how we understand human bonding, identified what he called the verification motive. Human beings do not simply want to believe that the people in their lives are trustworthy, competent, and aligned with their values. They need to verify it through direct behavioral evidence. And because people rarely reveal their true character in high-stakes moments where they know they are being evaluated, the most valuable verification data comes from low-stakes, ordinary moments where their guard is down and their authentic behavior is most visible. This is why the tests are silent. If you announce a test, you contaminate the results. The tester is not trying to trap you. They are trying to see you, the real you, the you that shows up when you think the evaluation is over. Understanding this changes everything about how you interpret the seemingly small and insignificant moments in your relationships. None of them are as small and insignificant as they appear. Sign 1. They ask you a question they already know the answer to. This is one of the oldest and most psychologically elegant tests in human social behavior, and once you know it, you will start seeing it everywhere. Someone asks you about something they have first-hand knowledge of, a situation they were part of, a fact they have already verified, an event they witnessed directly, and then they wait. What they are not measuring is your knowledge. They already have the answer. What they are measuring is your honesty, your willingness to be accurate even when inaccuracy would be more flattering or more convenient. Research on trust formation from the work of psychologist John Gottman, whose longitudinal studies on relationships are among the most comprehensive ever conducted, found that the foundation of deep trust is not grand displays of loyalty. It is the accumulation of small moments of verifiable honesty. When someone asks you a question they already know the answer to, and you give them an accurate account, you pass a test you did not even know you were taking. When you exaggerate, minimize, or reconstruct the account in ways that serve your image, you fail it at a level that is rarely recoverable because you have given them not just a false answer, but evidence about your character when you think no one is checking. The person testing you will rarely confront you about the discrepancy. They will simply update their internal assessment of you, and that updated assessment will quietly govern every decision they make about how much to trust you going forward. Sign 2. They ask for your help with something small and completely beneath their actual needs. A highly capable person asks you to help them with something trivially easy. A successful professional asks for your opinion on something they clearly already understand. Someone with significant resources asks you for a minor favor they could effortlessly handle themselves. Your first instinct might be to wonder why they are bothering. But what they are actually doing is running a character diagnostic through an apparently low-stakes request. Research on reciprocity and social exchange theory from sociologist Alvin Goldner, whose work on human cooperation has influenced fields from organizational psychology to evolutionary biology, found that how people respond to small requests reveals their underlying orientation toward others far more accurately than how they respond to large ones. Anyone can show up for a big, obvious moment. The person in the hospital, the friend in crisis, the colleague facing a public failure. These moments are visible and the social reward for showing up is clear. But when someone asks for something small and beneath them, they are watching whether you bring the same quality of attention and care to the minor request as you would to the major one. Whether you take it seriously, whether you follow through completely or half-heartedly, whether your helpfulness is genuine or is a performance you only put on when the audience is large enough to justify the effort. Sign 3. They deliberately cancel or reschedule plans and watch how you respond. This one is uncomfortable to hear but deeply important to understand. Sometimes a cancellation is just a cancellation. Life happens, but sometimes a person changes plans specifically to observe your reaction. Not to be cruel, but to gather critical data about your emotional stability, your level of neediness, and your capacity to handle disappointment without becoming destabilizing to the people around you. Psychologist attachment theorist John Bowlby, whose foundational research on adult attachment styles transformed developmental psychology, found that people consistently and unconsciously recreate the dynamics of their earliest attachment relationships in all subsequent close relationships. Someone who cancels to test you is often checking your attachment style. Are you securely attached enough to handle a minor disappointment with grace? Or does the cancellation trigger a level of anxiety, hurt, or anger that signals fragile self-regulation and anxious dependence? The response they are looking for is not indifference. Indifference signals its own problem. It signals that you do not value the relationship. The response that passes this test is measured, genuine disappointment, communicated without drama combined with easy, graceful flexibility. That combination tells the tester something extraordinarily valuable. That you care enough to be disappointed but are secure enough not to make the disappointment their problem to manage. Sign 4. They share a secret and wait to see if it travels. This is one of the most ancient social tests in human history, and it appears across every culture, every civilization, and every type of relationship, from the most intimate to the most professional. Someone shares something personal, private, or confidential with you. Something that has social currency. Something that other people would find interesting or useful or relevant. And then they wait. They watch whether the information stays with you or whether it moves. Whether you honor the implicit or explicit trust they placed in you, or whether you trade their vulnerability for social capital in a conversation with someone else. Research on gossip and social trust from Robin Dunbar at Oxford, whose work on social networks and human group dynamics is among the most influential in evolutionary psychology, found that information-sharing behavior is one of the primary mechanisms through which humans assess the trustworthiness of potential close allies. The person testing you in this way may be doing it entirely unconsciously. They shared something vulnerable, and their brain is now running its automatic monitoring program to see whether the information comes back to them through the social network. If it does, they have learned something about you that no amount of reassurance or loyalty declaration can undo. If it does not, they have added a powerful data point to their trust assessment of you. The people who understand this test understand that every piece of confidential information they are given is simultaneously a gift and an evaluation, and they treat it accordingly. Sign 5. They introduce a mild moral dilemma disguised as casual conversation. Someone casually brings up a scenario in conversation. What would you do if you found a wallet full of cash? What do you think about someone who got ahead by taking credit for someone else's work? How do you feel about people who cut corners when no one is watching? These questions feel like small talk. They feel like the kind of casual ethical musing that people engage in to pass time or find common conversational ground. They are not. Research on moral psychology from Jonathan Haidt at NYU, whose work on the foundations of human morality revolutionized how we understand ethical decision-making, found that people's responses to hypothetical moral scenarios are remarkably predictive of their actual behavior in real situations involving similar choices. The person asking these questions in the flow of ordinary conversation is taking a reading of your moral compass when your defenses are down, and when you have no reason to perform a socially acceptable answer because you do not yet realize the question is consequential. What they are listening for is not the specific answer you give. They are listening for the quality of your moral reasoning, whether your ethics are situational or principled, whether your values shift when the social rewards for having certain values shift, whether you rationalize or whether you take clear positions. Your answer in that seemingly throwaway moment tells them more about who you will be in difficult situations than almost anything you could deliberately say about yourself. Sign 6. They give you undeserved credit, and watch whether you accept or correct it. Someone attributes to you an achievement you did not fully earn. They praise you for work that was collaborative without acknowledging your collaborators. They tell others you were responsible for an outcome that involved significant contributions from people you have not mentioned. And they watch. This test cuts straight to the center of your ego management and your integrity under conditions of social reward. Most character tests involve resisting something unpleasant. The temptation to lie when honesty is costly. The temptation to gossip when discretion requires effort. But this test involves resisting something pleasant. Accepting credit feels good. It serves your reputation. It costs you nothing in the immediate moment to simply let the inflated attribution stand. Which is exactly why this test is so revealing. Research on moral identity from Augustine Meyer and colleagues in social psychology found that integrity under conditions of reward is significantly rarer and significantly more predictive of character than integrity under conditions of threat. Anyone can tell the truth when lying would cost them. The person who corrects an unearned compliment or shares credit when no one is demanding it is revealing something about the relationship between their public identity and their private integrity that is extraordinarily rare and extraordinarily valuable. The tester who sees you voluntarily correct the record has learned something about you that makes you genuinely remarkable in their eyes. Sign 7. They go quiet and watch what you do with the silence. This is the subtlest and perhaps the most psychologically sophisticated test on this entire list. In the middle of a conversation or an exchange, someone simply stops. They do not fill the space. They do not redirect. They do not rescue you from the quiet. They let it sit and they watch what you do with it. Because what you do with silence reveals almost everything about your relationship with your own sense of value and security. Research on social anxiety and self-regulation shows that people with lower self-esteem and higher anxiety consistently feel compelled to fill silence. The quiet feels like disapproval, like withdrawal of warmth, like social punishment. And so they talk. They over-explain. They make jokes to relieve the tension. They ask rapid questions to restart the social engine, because sitting in silence with another person feels unbearable when your sense of worth depends on their visible engagement. But people who are genuinely secure in themselves can sit in silence with complete comfort. They do not need the other person to be actively producing warmth in order to feel okay. They do not interpret quiet as rejection. They inhabit the silence with the same ease they inhabit conversation because their internal state does not require constant external feeding. The person testing you with silence is measuring exactly this. Are you someone who can simply be present without needing the moment to constantly reassure you? And the answer you give with your behavior in those quiet seconds tells them more about your inner world than an hour of conversation ever could. Here is the truth that all 7 of these signs point toward. The people who matter most in your life are not evaluating you in the obvious moments. They are watching the ordinary ones, the moments when you think the stakes are low, when you think no one important is observing, when you think the test is over. Character is not what you display when you know you are being watched. It is what you default to when you think you are not. And the most respected, most trusted, most genuinely influential people in any environment have understood this at a deep level. Every small moment is data, every quiet interaction is evidence, every apparently insignificant choice is a building block in the structure of who you actually are versus who you perform being. The tests never fully stop, but once you understand them, they stop being something to fear and start being something to welcome. Because every silent test is an opportunity to show the people who matter most exactly who you are when nobody is watching. And that person, if you have built them carefully, is someone worth knowing.